During this episode of the Monday Mindset, you will hear an interview between Kevin DeShazo and giant guide Irene Mugambi. Now, Irene is from Nairobi, Kenya, Africa. And so I just wanted to let you know that the Wi-Fi is quite spotty during this interview, but we felt it very important that we all hear from Irene. She has a unique, wonderful perspective when it comes to a healthy mindset. And we felt like it was important to still allow our viewers to see this interview. So we hope that you enjoy it and can give a little grace when it comes to the technology. Thank you. And here's that interview.
One of the fun things about the Giant family is that it is a global family. And not all of our guests are in the Giant world, but this one is, and she is from Nairobi. And I believe, I want to make sure I got that correct. She can correct me if I got it wrong.
No, you got it right.
Thank you so much for joining us all the way from across the pond, not in England, but in Africa. Again, if we have tech issues, we will figure it out and work through it. But Irene, so excited to spend a little bit of time with you. So tell the world who you are.
First, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Tracy. And congratulations to you for, with it Monday, just where you're at. So that's fantastic. So my name is Irene, and so a little bit about myself. I'm a mom, married, two grown kids, but more importantly, I think the Giant world has really just opened up on my end of the world is to influence people and make an impact. So what does that look like? Working with different ones, different levels in their life, either in businesses or youth. That has sort of slowed down over COVID. But once again, I think that's the story of pretty much that's around the world. And I'm on the second half of my life, is what I would describe myself as. My first half was fully, full-time mom, working as well, full-time work in the financial markets, over 15 years. Moved on from there into time out to try and figure out, my next. And in the process of that, found Giant somewhere down the road. So some 5-6 years down the road, Giant has. I've come across Giant. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So let's talk about mindset a little bit. So let's talk about mindset really in your first phase of life, right? You said you're kind of on your second mountain, so to speak. When did you realize that mindset was a thing, that it mattered, right? That your attitude mattered, that your perspective mattered. Was there kind of a moment in life where it's like, wait a minute, I need to start to think in a different way? My mindset, maybe it's not right, or when was that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good question. I actually realized that somewhere in between college and my first job into the workspace. So that's a really long, 3 different spots in life. And basically the understanding for me was, if I'm going to achieve anything meaningful, I've got to believe in what it is that I'm doing. I've got to believe in myself. And I was grappling with a couple of things in that space. And so I'd be reaching out to, get stuff done, and I just couldn't attain it, or, I missed opportunities. So perfect example, I get invited to, go and give now, and I'd find ways to wiggle out of it, you just missed opportunities, or, just a deal and just different things. So I saw, at the time I believed I was fully introverted. I agree. That's myself. And also had subscribed to, which is typical for many of us. And they were hindering me. Those mindsets were hindering, just the perceptions were hindering my progress. And so I think in there somewhere in between those 3 points, leaving college into work life, I began to realize I need to think about how I think. I had a desire to do things at a really excellent level. So that was at least that was working for me. And that, I think, was the foundation in which I sprang forward, reaching out for awareness, learning about work, where to fit in. And I think back then, I don't know that we had a whole lot as we do today. So when I hear Tracy say jump onto the Ascent, platform and get your free account, I would be signing up because that was not available then.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah,
at least
that's
not,
right.
not in my neck of the woods.
Yeah. Well, and you said something really, really important there is that you wanted to do excellent work, right? You wanted to be doing great things. You wanted to be great at what you did, but we don't do excellent work without first having an excellent mindset, right? Like your mindset was preventing you from growth, preventing you from success, preventing you from taking advantage of opportunities. So even though you wanted to be excellent, you wanted to do great things, like you are preventing yourself from doing that. And I think that's really critical for people to understand. It's like, yeah, there can be some outside forces. Other people can make decisions that kind of hold us back or prevent growth. But so much of it is just the way that we think, right? We're preventing our own progress. We're preventing ourselves from seeing and taking advantage of opportunities. So what did you start to do, like on a real practical level, to try to get a better mindset?
So I was productive, but in terms of present, I wasn't present. So in terms of enjoying who I really was, that was the missing link. So I began to study people who are actually, hitting the mark in my estimation. And also, life has a way of happening. And so different challenges did crop up. And that was a real test of, how positive can you be? And I remember reading a book by, I forget his first name, but I think it was somebody Schuller, Robert Schuller, I believe. It was tough times never last, but tough people do. And just that whole understanding that these seasons come and go. You need to make a mark for yourself. You need to focus. You need to have a plan. And I began to look at life from that perspective. And that was, it sounds obvious to maybe different ones, but I tell you, when you're given to a lot of activity and you're busy, and you're producing, you can't get very busy. You don't, that ability to focus in and narrow down on what changes do I need to make? What adjustments do I need to make? What's for me? What doesn't work? And making life happen. So that was for me a turning point. Just being able to find different ones that I thought were hitting the mark.
Yeah, which I think is so important, right? Like we can at times feel overwhelmed. Like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to figure it out. I don't know how to get out of this rut. I don't know how to get better at whatever it is, right? Maybe it's mindset, maybe it's selling, maybe it's whatever your thing is. There's somebody out there who you can learn from. And maybe it's not someone in your immediate world, right? That can be an actual mentor for you to say, hey, what did you do to figure this out? How did you get into, how did you get better at this? It may just be a book. It may be a video. Like to your point, we have so many resources available now. It's like if you'll make time, you can find mentors on the internet, right? Again, maybe not a person to intentionally invest in you, but you can get information. The Ascend platform, we talk a lot with leaders and people about getting better, and we love to make excuses. Oh, I'm too busy. I don't have enough money. Yeah. It's like Ascend is free, and all you have to do is make the time. And to your second point, we get so busy, we get so distracted by quote unquote good things. Like, well, I'm producing. It's like, yeah, but are you healthy? Do you really have a good mindset? Busyness is a distraction, and it prevents us from actually getting better. So I think that was a really good point. Is there kind of a moment when when your mindset worked against you, right? Maybe you had a negative mindset or an unhealthy mindset, and just kind of your mindset, it failed you when you needed it.
I think I'll pick a recent one because you can go back to history. I think at the time, to focus or not, just I think and I believe I lost out on opportunities with, to build meaningful networks at the time, to build meaningful relationships. Just distracted, and later on, as I dialed in and just became honest, really just own what it is that I wanted to be. I was happy to help people because I love to see people reach their potential. That's one of the things I love to do, and to remove barriers. So I was happy to do that for other people. So I've had situations, even to date, people will say, oh, remember you connected me with this person, or you took me, for this meeting, and I dragged you to this and dragged you to that. So I'd be doing all this stuff, which is fine, no problem with that. But when I take stock and sit at home or on my own, after if I ever did get to stop, I would then realize I have missed opportunities to build a meaningful relationship there, or this could have probably developed into something bigger. During the time I was studying, I took a course, and one of the things I did was an entrepreneurship module, and I did an amazing project. It was actually second. It's called TOPS. So, but I did not implement it. And so those are the sorts of mindset things. So delivered the plan, amazing plan, could get it, but couldn't deliver it. So it's like, oh my goodness, you need to just act. Yeah. Follow through, believe in yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think that's so true for many of us, right? We look back at missed opportunities, and more often than not, it was because of our mind. We didn't believe in ourselves. We didn't believe it was going to work. We found excuses, right? Instead of just taking action, exactly. and maybe it wasn't worked out, right? Like, and that's okay too. It's like, but I would much rather go for it and fail than not give something the chance to actually come to fruition, and then look back with regret, like, oh, I wish I would have. Exactly. Man, why didn't I? Because it's always easier to evaluate, strategic mistakes, right? Like, oh, I could have just tweaked this a little bit, versus just the guilt of doing nothing, of not taking any action, So that's
true. I know.
So
Yeah.
No, that's good. Let's talk a little bit about mindset with kids and parenting, because I know a lot of people who listen are parents. Did you do anything with your kids to try to help them have healthy mindsets?
Yes. Now my kids is a completely different story. So when, the children, something just connected and came alive. And, fast forward, I have worked, let me say we, because we worked as a team with their dad, my husband. One of the things we've done with the kids is to let them be them. So just accept who you are, where you're at, what works for you. You're going to be different. People are different. Just that whole dynamic of understanding just where they fit in the whole equation of, first of all, as an individual within the family and outside of outside our space. So that, I think, is one of the things we've really tried to reinforce, and just be comfortable with that. Yeah. Because then you can extend that to other people. And so just that ability, resilience. You don't say that to a child, I want you to be resilient, but creating opportunities that bring challenge. That is something we've also tried to do, and just actively, in conversation. So my primary thought process raising them up is I want to be able to influence them, but at some point they need to be able to own the journey for themselves, and run with it. With understanding of principles. What's the principal things? What are the important stuff? There's so much, especially now, that's thrown out, at children, and even adults. We're confused, just like, okay, so what, what should it be? So as kids, just what is the principal thing? What are the important things? And how do you just internalize those things? And how do you keep at it? Yeah, so that's what we try to do with the kids. And I think they've turned out decent. And it's an ongoing process. That's the other thing. It never ends. It doesn't stop. But it's important to have the foundations in place.
Yep. Well, and I love that. And just like anything else, right? It's one, it's not going to be perfect, but you're trying to be intentional. And intentional with them to get them to understand certain things, to understand certain principles, instead of saying, I hope my kids figure out this is like, no, we want to put them in situations and bring challenge and create opportunities so that those things take root, right? I love that. Last question from me, and then we'll see if our audience has any questions. What is there something you do each day or on a consistent basis to hit reset on your mindset, right? To get into the right mindset for the day. Maybe it's for a big meeting, but is there something that you do consistently to get into the right mindset?
I think if I was to summarize it, I'd say I like to watch how I think, because it's easy to your mind can run off with you, and so I like to prep. So maybe for a morning routine. So one of the things I'll do is I will not do email early morning necessarily, or some moments for inspirational text reading. I think in chunks of time. So I'll take 3 days, and plan those 3 days in advance and just look at what's going on there, track, reflect. I do reflect on quite a bit. I spend quite a bit of time just almost automatically reflecting as we go, as I'm going along the day. So I think I would say if I was to narrow down one thing, I'd say it's trying to gain insight, the time and have embedded in my thinking, just what was that about? How did that go? What could have been done differently? What did I miss? What did I pick? Just that insight on situations, on myself, on situations outside of just everyday, what I think about it. Just that's what I'd say.
Yeah, that's so good. And there's a consistent theme for those who've been listening of realizing the power of your morning, right? And how you start your morning, not starting it with email or work or social media, or just starting it on purpose and starting it with things that fill your mind, put your mind in a good spot for the day. But also the power of self-reflection, of thinking through meetings you were in, situations you were in. How did I do? Why did I do that thing that way? We can't get better if we don't reflect. We can't get better on accident. And that's certainly true with mindset. Like you are not going to have a good mindset on accident. So you have to make time for it. And I think, like with anything else, if you're not making time for it, you're still spending that time. You're just spending it on the drama that's the result of not having a good mindset. So the time is being spent. It's just choosing where you want to actually spend that time. That's right.
That's a different way. Yeah, true.
All right, Miss Tracy, what questions do we have from our friends?
Yeah, Irene, just thank you. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I know it's evening there and you have, dinner and all of that. So thank you. I've learned so much from you. We have 2 questions coming in. The first one is from Jared. He says this. He says, as an employer, what's your best advice to help me with a negative employee with their mindset?
It makes me think about, there's 2, I see it from 2 perspectives here. There's, as an employer, your perspective on the employee, and then the employee, he himself or herself. And I think is speaking into somebody's life that is negative, just are they ready for it? What can they do? So I think I would observe and initiate a conversation with them and try and establish what is happening with them first, because sometimes are they generally negative across the board? Is it something that then you're able to navigate this individual? Sometimes it's fear. It could be they're just negative. So depending on what is actually playing out here, you're able then to work with this employee. The support challenge matrix is a perfect one to look at, because then it's a liberating conversation. It's one of the things that when it's negative, the person is probably maybe not receptive, depending. So the support challenge matrix, I think, would be a great place to begin a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So second question here, Jasmine is asking, have there been specific obstacles for you as a woman in Africa where you've had to really bolster your mindset in order to persevere?
By nature, most of I think our societies are, what's the word, patriarchal. And so the first thing I have had to do is see myself as an individual first, because if you go by the narrative, it is true, it is the male population. So at boards, management. So just the different things that society or in Africa, at least where we are, and things have changed significantly. You couldn't buy, say, you couldn't get a bank loan if you are a woman, say, your husband in some, but that has now changed. So there's been different, challenges that So I think for me, what I've had to do and what I've learned to do is to get in on the conversation, to understand where I fit and function, and to sometimes you've got to get buy-in from different ones when you want to pass something and to have it done. So I think we also have quite a number of in our scenarios where you find open-minded or very supportive and liberated mindsets that also you can appeal to. So I think for me it's understanding that I see myself first as a capable individual.
It's really good. Well, that's all the questions we had, Kevin. What else?
No, I love it. That was great. Irene, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your wisdom, for your experience. I know that we're better because of the stuff that you shared with us. So I appreciate you taking some time from across the pond. Do we have Irene's link? Is that possible?
Irene, yeah, what is your Giant affiliate code? So if folks in your area of the world want to connect with you, I know Irene is able to do what we call a boot camp, where she can get your team on our platform for free, and everyone on your team can take an assessment, and then Irene can follow up with you and just give you some pointers. It's completely free. And then after that, if you decide, gosh, I really want to work with Irene, then this affiliate code would help you do that. And so what is that, Irene?
It would just be / with Irene Mugambi.
Well, guys, so if you want to connect with Irene, make sure you use that link and get set up. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. Appreciate you, Irene. Thank you so much. We will see you guys next week on the Monday Mindset.